Usually we are given 45 minutes of time, and by the time we walked on stage, it is showing as 30 minutes. And therefore, we have to be really, really competitive in terms of what we are going to say, and at the same time, be sharply focused on what we are actually discussing. Members in the audience, would you like to have any questions about this particular topic, shaping the future entrepreneurs? We'll take the questions first and then get into the discussion. Raise hands. I know it is a very difficult situation that the society is going through. Your lunch is being served there almost, and then we are still talking. Questions? Yeah, anybody else? Of course, you have to ask the question. Yeah, Professor Sanjay. Yeah.
So we have been listening a lot about MBA students becoming entrepreneurs. My question is, if everyone becomes entrepreneurs, who will work for these entrepreneurs?
Very interesting question. We'll handle that. Any other questions from the youngsters who are there on the left side of this room? I heard a big round of applause when Dr. Chaturvedi was walking up. When popular heroes walk on this planet, they get a big round of applause. It's like that. Anybody else on the right side? Yes, sir. Please stand up.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I have studied in BIM 20 years back and then have been an entrepreneur for 7 years. Okay. So the question is, the focus for every institute currently is definitely one of the parameters is how many entrepreneurs are they creating. Yeah. So when everybody is looking at these parameters, what are these institutes able to do in these aspects in creating an entrepreneurship platform? Okay, because the IMs are where, I mean, it has been said that the IMs have a very good platform for these, but the second rung institutes do not have. So what are the second rung institutes doing to build such a platform where the students can plug in and they will develop in this forum?
Great question. Very good. Any more questions? Yes, go ahead. Let's make do without mic. Oh.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon. I'm Sharan Sharma from GNOIT Institute of Management Studies. I would like to ask that how entrepreneurs help in shaping a country and making it in a global scenario, how a country is benefited by entrepreneurs and how it makes a country available on the global map.
Excellent. Big round of applause to the student who has asked this question. Amazing. You've actually flipped it. How are the institutions shaping the future entrepreneurs was the topic, and you're saying how are these entrepreneurs going to shape the country and the world around us? Wonderful. Any other questions? Yes, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just need to know, be very specific in questioning my question here, that what we look forward in the management institutes to develop the future entrepreneurs. So
yeah, that's the whole topic.
Yeah, what one point majorly that we look forward, because we'll be discussing many other areas, but what is one?
Don't worry about it. I will make sure that they talk about what they are doing.
Okay, that's really great then.
Yeah, big round of applause also. Yeah. Any other questions? See, these questions serve as your seed capital into what we are going to talk about, isn't it? So you have so much of expectation from us, and expectation is in terms of various questions, and we hope that you stay glued and you continue to continue to listen to the conversation that's going to take place. So we'll begin now. We have a fantastic panel here. Some of these academic leaders who have held responsibilities, not just now, but also in the past, that gave them a lot of exposure to and an opportunity to contribute to this crucible called entrepreneurship. And therefore, we are all set to learn a lot from these gentlemen and the lady who is present on the panel. Entrepreneurship in simple is about two important characteristic features. It is about taking risk and also taking ownership. Whether you work for yourself or you work for somebody else, these are two important characteristic features that are going to mark an entrepreneur. Some of the students who are studying with us may not become entrepreneurs immediately, but over a period of time, they get into entrepreneurship. But if they bear these characteristic features of risk-taking and ownership in enough measure, and I'm sure they are going to become entrepreneurs sometime sooner. Many institutions talk about entrepreneurship as an important activity. They have incubation centers. They have a little bit of curriculum on entrepreneurship. They have entrepreneurs coming and talking to the students. They participate in pitch deck competitions. They participate in startup ventures. They try to be visible everywhere. A lot of things are being done by institutions. We are not going to repeat all that. While I appreciate all these are very, very good. We are going to talk about 4 or 5, or at least 4 buckets very, very specifically. What I request our team members is to understand that there is about two minutes at one go and another 2 minutes at second. So there are 2 rounds, not more than that probably. In your institution, in your university, kindly tell us how the startup has been taken up in a measurable way. There could be results, there could be measured efforts as well. Both are counted. Okay. But we speak in bullet points so that it is easier for them to consume. At the same time, this is an activity which is having a priority in all our institutions. I understand that. And therefore, we talk about specific startup activity initiatives, measures, support from the institution, and then how it has been taken forward. Maybe if you can reduce it to less than 2 minutes also, it's fine. Now I first invite Professor Lieutenant General R.K. Anand, Manav Rachna Institute.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Very good questions. Actually, they lead us to talk in specifics. Now, I'll just take the audience back to all those who had these questions back to a decade or 2 decades back, and let you compare or try and think or analyze what used to be the environment in a campus in a university. When we were youngsters, I'm from IIT Delhi. Most of the IITs are known for many things, but the environment was strictly going as per the syllabi within the 4 walls of a room, trying to finish the syllabi and produce a student with some specific objectives. And thereafter, the student will fly out to the institution and get on to the industry. Now, there is a dramatic shift which has taken place, which I can talk of where I am now. Rather than having fixed 4 walls and a tight syllabi, we have an industry we have the industry which is walked into the institution now. So your institution is actually being driven by the industry. Now, how do we do that? We have almost about 42 now centers of excellence which have been created, which are about different areas of expertise we want our students to nurture into or develop into or look at it and possibly get an interest into. Now, all these are primarily driven by the industry. Now, how is it being done? It's being done very scientifically, actually. If you look at the environment and do a scan, human race has been evolving over the years, and our ancestors were also equally entrepreneurs as we think we are. And it's all about survivability and sustainability. Now, look at the industry, they're also trying to do that. Look at the environment, SDGs, UN is talking of, everything is about survivability, sustainability, and evolution. Now, industry is continuously evolving. And if you do this scan, in near and long-term future, you can clearly visualize where is it going, where is the demand. Now, somehow we have to bring the students closer to this demand and understand that if you are a child who thinks that, he can use his mind into innovation, here is the scan. This is where the industry is going. This is what the evolving demand is. Come, listen, evolve yourself. Now, you'll be very surprised that, most of us think that current generation possibly does not have that, but we have students who walk into the university, take an admission, and next second they come up to me and say, sir, I want to take part in innovation activity. This is his first aim in the university. And you ask him, do you have some idea? He says, yes, sir, I have about 20 ideas. Can you listen to me? So on day 1, he opens up his ideas, and day 2, he is forming part of the New Gen IEDC camp, in which he is already there and looking for a mentor now. This is the way students are coming these days. And you'll be very surprised that we have few thousand students. The moment you announce, you have few hundred coming up and saying we are there. Now, so in short, since I have 2 minutes, we must pass the mic. I would say that there is an integration and convergence taking place between the industry, the demand, the way the whole ecosystem is evolving, the way the government is pulling the whole ecosystem, along with what's happening in the campus and the students. Somehow this convergence is helping people or the students to, think innovatively and come up with ideas. So much now I can come
Excellent,
back.
excellent, sir. I think you have very nicely put it in terms of the convergence. Industry is more getting into institutions now, and institutions are more open, and even students who are walking into the institutions are asking for what kind of support do I get for entrepreneurship, and I have lots of ideas. Would you like to listen to? Great. You have set the tone very well, sir. Dr. Pooja Jain, I would like to ask you 2 things, and you can choose one. One is to tell us what kind of entrepreneurship activities are happening in your institution at one end. On the other, which is more important and bigger and relevant to all of us, is how do we set the cultural mindset required to actually nurture these entrepreneurship? And that's what institutions are supposed to do. I think from your experience and from your suggestions, we can probably learn a few points and apply it across other institutions as well. Dr. Pooja.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much first for giving me this opportunity. In fact, I'll answer the first question, and taking from my prior panelist, he was talking about, students start asking from the first day. In fact, students start asking before they even take admissions. When we are in the GDPI processes and we ask them, what are your future goals? So many of them, if I look at in the current times, they already have business ideas in their mind, and they're looking for that nurturing and mentoring support to actually operationalize those ideas into real business ventures. So there is a tremendous amount of change that I see in the student which is coming nowadays. If I look at about 10 years back, and in a country like ours, where more than 30% of our population belongs to the middle class, it was getting a job was the most respectable thing and the most respected profession which was considered. But it was not okay to fail. But if you look at the current business scenarios and the mindset of people, it's okay to fail. And the risk appetite has really grown over the years. So the parents are okay if you fail in your business ventures. The society is okay if you fail, and you can fail and come back again, start up new ventures, and probably look for a better future ahead. So that's the kind of change that I observe in the last few years. And on top of it, even look at the kind of government support. The entire ecosystem has become so supportive in nature that it is, giving it a very positive kind of an outlook.
So what do you do at your institution, ma'am?
Yeah. Talking about my institution, so there are different kinds of supports that we offer. The generic support is definitely, teaching them courses in entrepreneurship, marketing, law, how to set up a business. And in fact, recently we have initiated subject on family business, because what we have realized is that most of the students who are coming from business backgrounds already have parental business or generational businesses running. So they want to give a boost to their existing business and scale up those businesses to a higher level. Apart from a generic support, we also have a very focused approach or a support that we give to students who, who have business ideas in their mind, in terms of not just a financial support, the seed money support, but also mentoring, specific mentoring on cross-disciplinary areas wherein they would require support to take the business venture into a final stage. Apart from that, another feature that we've added from the last 3 years is an extended placement support. So you can try your business idea. If it does not succeed, you can still come back to us and take a placement support.
Great.
So we are creating that kind of a framework, apart from a lot of networking and collaborative, opportunities that we create, wherein we call angel investors, seed money fund firms, or, institutional framework support to come and interact with such students and probably guide them to a better future.
Excellent. I think you're doing all the right things. One is to create access to funds. Before that, creating a curriculum that is required with a special focus on family business, and when you have this mentorship which is structured in your institution, it goes a long way in producing the results. And thank you so much, Dr. Pooja, for that. I'll now request Dr. Chaturvedi to come in now. Dr. Nihar will wait. We'll talk about, Dr. Nihar, some of the things that institutions abroad are doing with respect to entrepreneurship and what probably we should also emulate. That will come to you. But I request Dr. Chaturvedi to talk about, see, the government policy in India has done great. There's a lot of talk now about it. It pulls up, as Lieutenant General has also mentioned. As Dr. Pooja also mentioned, that we are appreciating what the government is doing definitely, and how is it translating into results. But you have this international experience, and we could probably learn from that. Can you help us understand how it is done elsewhere, maybe in a country or two where you can refer to, and explain the policy measures that they would have taken up to nurture this entrepreneurship in their country, and what we could pick up 1 or 2 lessons from there?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, dignitaries on the dais of the dais. Before joining GNIOT, I was in Tashkent, and there were 2 similarities between what I did in Tashkent and what they did here. They both opened centers during COVID in 2020. तो मुझे सत्यकाम का एक गाना याद आता है कि ज़माने में ऐसे नादान होते हैं, ले जाते हैं वहीं कश्ती जहाँ तूफान होते हैं. So when the centers were closing, institutions were closing, they opened here, and we opened in Tashkent. It was a Ministry of External Affairs project, and I was the advisor there for 2 years. Now the question here is how the policies of Central Asia, or in particular Uzbekistan, is different from Government of India's policy. First of all, they give free education to everybody, which may or may not be possible here because of the population. They are just 3.5 crore people in Uzbekistan. Total Central Asia, 7 crore. So it is less than a state here. But what they do is that they give free education. Either you can do in Uzbek language or you can do in Russian language. But people go for Russian now. And now they are switching over to English. So first, the education and the educators in the school are basically from like one of the best you can find in Russian model. I was told that in Russians' time, only 2 people could buy a car. One was the professor and other was the doctor. Now, the same concept is there in Central Asia. Professors are given fantastic salaries supported by the government. Here, that is again a question mark. Second, when a student pass out from the school, they have a 11th standard school. So they have a you can say internship type of 1 year, which has to be completed before you go to undergraduate. So that 1 year is very important. They go in industry and work in the industry just after 11th class. We don't have that model here. And after 12th, after this 1 more year, when they go for graduation, if it is a state government, it is free. If it is a private institution and you have to give an English test, entire training of English of IELTS is free for everybody. And it is $500 for 3 months course. That is a big amount in that particular area. So that is given. And if a girl student score more than 5 in IELTS score, she gets a scholarship. So the challenge here is that they start grooming the students right from schooling. So I think that is one policy which we can differentiate.
Amazing point. Yeah. So grooming them early, free education, recognition and reward for professors and education as a whole, which is a step above what we do here. Fantastic. Thank you so much. So we'll come back to you for a few more points to learn from you. Dr. Nihar, we understand that if you're a good teacher, you end up being a role model and you generate some of the teachers from the classroom. I mean, that is the power of a teacher. You become a role model. Most of these private institutions are set up by entrepreneurs, right? So if they have been exemplary entrepreneurs themselves, they should have actually created much more entrepreneurs from the classroom. Can we say that? Yeah. So how do you see the institutions abroad shaping future entrepreneurs or entrepreneurship as a whole, vis-a-vis some of the institutions that we have in this country doing? Or don't have to talk about what we are doing, but talk about what we are not doing. That's good enough for us.
It's a great question. So one of the things that universities abroad have done is that they have not looked at entrepreneurship as one subject. Rather, they have embedded entrepreneurship throughout the curriculum of the business school and the management programs. So that's very important because we need to recognize that, look, enterprise is different and entrepreneurship is different. Enterprise is about having an idea, making it happen. Entrepreneurship is then about scaling it up and then, creating social, cultural, and economic value in the society. So 3 stages I would just like to very succinctly highlight. See, when it comes to enterprise education, it's about first, learning about, second, learning for, and third, learning through. Learning about is the actual subject knowledge. What is entrepreneurship? Stories from the past, case studies, etc. Learning for is now preparing for the entrepreneurial journey. Okay, and that is how we do it, is by offering students an opportunity through courses like design thinking. Okay, that is wherein they have to create something. Okay, you're forced to create something. You're not just mugging up a textbook. Secondly, offering students the opportunity to actually consult with some of the startups. So they are actually seeing entrepreneurship in action without having to actually fly by the seat of their pants. And third is learning through. Now, learning through is when you actually start your venture. That's mostly a reflective process. And that is what is missing over here. Because most entrepreneurs learn via reflection. And that reflection only comes through action. So this is one. And the second thing I would just like to highlight is that, look, when in India, we look at entrepreneurship education purely from the point of view of startups. Well, I tend to disagree with that because what we need is entrepreneurial leaders within organizations. So I'm talking about entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship education need not necessarily mean you go out and start up. You can actually go into an organization and create entrepreneurial value and a spin-off within that organization. A quick example is in ITC, there was a gentleman who noticed that value could be created by working with those people who were working in the soya farm fields. And he sold that idea to his chairman and he said, I need 40 lakhs for this project. And he was given that 40 lakhs and today that is the actual highest revenue generating arm of ITC.
Correct.
So that is an entrepreneurial effect taking place within an organization. So we need to look at it from both perspectives.
Entrepreneurship as well. Wonderful. Nice points that you have actually mentioned, that institutions will have to encourage startups, and while they are still studying with us, they need to found their companies and move forward. So that's about the practicum part of it taken to entrepreneurship. Amazing. And we have a question there. We'll come back to that. Dr. Pooja and Lieutenant General Anand, we have one each for you. First, Dr. Pooja, I will request you to comment on very briefly again, because you know the time that is ticking away from us. when institutions set up these startups, we have incubation, so on and so forth. The first measure of your faith on entrepreneurship is when you yourself invest some money. I'll give you an example. As a parent, if your child has come up with some business idea and you do not want to invest in that business idea, how do you think somebody else will invest in that idea? Similarly, if an institution doesn't invest in, you don't have any mechanism to invest. There are some institutions which do, by the way. If institutional faith, parental faith, and of course the societal faith improves on entrepreneurship, then we would be actually nurturing them, celebrating their failures, as you mentioned earlier. We'll be going in the right direction. How to set the cultural mindset, both within the institution and without the institution, for entrepreneurship? Ma'am, would you like to throw 2-3 bullet points on this?
Okay. Talking about the mindset, as I was talking, it happens at a broader level. It does not start only with an institution, but I think it starts from the family level to an institution level, and the entire ecosystem level when it comes to policy making. So if you look at post 2015, there have been a lot of initiatives by the government of India in terms of Startup India, Skill Up India, or say a lot of focus on vocational training, encouraging smaller startups, not just providing them just financial support, but also a lot of institutional support, leadership capability building support, talking about different kinds of skill set, whether it is critical thinking, problem solving, being innovative, and even if it is a small startup, a small scale business. When you were talking about institutions, or academic institutions trying to give that kind of a support, I can tell you a very small venture, as my other co-panelist was talking about, reflections. Unless and until you start doing things, you will actually not know the nuances of doing it. So we allow our students, so there are 2 different cafeteria supports which are run by our existing students. The moment any of the students says, I want to have a startup in a food business, so we allow them to run those setups during their tenure of the courses, and many of them have actually run them very successfully. And we have supported these kinds of small startups. In fact, we have aligned with 2 industrial areas which are near the vicinity of our campus, and we try and send our students to learn from the SME enterprises, in fact support them in their running businesses and learn from there. So this is the kind of culture that we have set up in our institution.
Culture by doing, culture by immersive activities.
Yes,
Wonderful.
immersive
Thank you very
as well
much.
as
Yeah.
reflective.
Great. Thank you. Lieutenant General Anand, sir, I would like to request you to answer that one interesting question a gentleman asked. We are talking about entrepreneurship, and if everybody in the classroom comes out as an entrepreneur, who is going to work for them? Hypothetical, but it's a very relevant and practical. At the same
It's
time.
a relevant question, and I'll give you some examples how things happen. Firstly, as far as entrepreneurship is concerned, there is no dearth of money now. In fact, money is flooding. The institutions are not able to spend it. Many institutions have returned the money I know of, and it's primarily because they've not been able to push it. And second, what is more interesting is that, as I said earlier also, there's a lot of pull by the government. And starting from Ministry of Defense, Commerce and other ministries, large number of lists have been created, which they have decided will happen within India. So there's a full drive which is happening on indigenization. So that is also, taking a pull and, throwing up problem statements. Now, what is interesting, the point which you said is, I'll just give you an example. We have a startup where a child wanted to work on energy from waste. In fact, it's a very common idea. There are a large number of institutions researching on it, and we have a breakthrough in that. While doing this energy from waste, we were working on segregating waste. And in our biotech department, there was a child who wanted to do work on utilizing food waste. So can you beat it? We have a startup coming out of a startup. So there is a group of 3 which is actually feeding to another group of 3 students, wherein the waste which is pulled out by these gentlemen, they're segregating food waste, which is now being used by them to make spoons, plates, which can be used. You drink in a cup and eat the cup.
Edible
You take a spoon, yeah, edible spoon. So you eat with that spoon and eat the spoon. It's all coming from food waste. So it's a startup coming from a startup. So there is no dearth of ideas like this where one entrepreneur can actually give way to another entrepreneur. We have very many ideas like this
Right.
which are happening where children are wanting to make apps which have a fair amount of utility. We had an app created by a student which is to do with health clubs which is running around the country and how they can be made more scientific. We had another student who was from the physiotherapy department. He pitched in. So there are two teams now working. From one startup, another startup has come in where a child is now working on how to scientifically look at your figure and tell you, are you exercising right or you're not exercising right?
Okay, you're saying that it is contagious and it is infectious. It goes from
Yeah,
one to another, and many people can become entrepreneurs. There are so many ideas. Well, the other point that Professor meant was that there you can be an entrepreneur in the meantime, and then branch out, take your parachute, and jump out as as an entrepreneur, as Dr. Nihar has mentioned earlier. Sir, Dr. Chaturvedi, I would like to ask you one last question, and that is very briefly you will have to answer. Startups and entrepreneurship is one. Their performance in the startup world, their performance as their behavior, their ethics is another. As institutions, all of us will have to call their bluff if some of them are actually making mistakes in the areas of over-evaluation, in the areas of wrong reporting, in the areas of completely non-ethical practices of laying off people and splurging money elsewhere. As we all know, we have read about these things. Today's news is about Go Mechanic, where excess revenue reporting that has been caught. If they were the poster boys of the startup world, our students inside the classroom who are sitting here also will get a shock. We need to actually handle this thing very carefully. Ethics and performance are two axes. How do institutions play a pivotal role in managing these two things, and what are the one or two measures that we need to take to curtail this?
Yeah, thank you. In fact, I was on the board of Tata's for some time, 7-8 years back, and they were looking for only two things in a student, and they never go to IIMs or IITs to recruit mostly. First, the student is dedicated towards the job he's looking forward. And second, is he honest or not? Any student who is extremely intelligent, extremely good marks, but trying to figure out or give wrong answers to a question, is out. So I think this has to be inculcated in the student first of all, that nobody is God, so you have to also learn. Second, there is no class of hearing. We always talk about how to speak, how to present, how to blah blah blah.
Excellent.
But there is no class of hearing. We should have at least half an hour class for the student to listen and to make note of that, and then they present. Because worldwide this is becoming a problem. Like we are having a TikTok generation.
Listening comprehension classes.
Yes. How a student can listen for 50 minutes if he is not interested in 5 minutes of YouTube? That's a challenge for us. I think if we inculcate this, that hearing is also very important, rather more important than talking. I think this will. But honesty and dedication is the two qualities.
Honesty and dedication, sir, we take those points. And listening is extremely important, and listening to your customers is more important than overly listening to your investors. And that's where startups actually go upside down. One last question to Dr. Nihar. Dr. Nihar, the entrepreneurship or shaping the entrepreneurs is not just a domain of business schools or schools. Business schools, when I say management schools, they are located in metros like Delhi, Hyderabad, or Bangalore, Mumbai, and all. But I'm sure there are youngsters bursting with ideas in rural India, small towns as well. What do you think some of these leading business schools will have to do to shape these future entrepreneurs who may not be part of their student roles?
I think incentivizing, as somebody from the panel spoke, incentivizing these entrepreneurs to come on and have a decent education is very, very important. But at the same time, we in the business school need to understand their context, that they necessarily do not have the formal business and management knowledge that our biz school graduates normally tend to have. But we have examples of people succeeding even then. So for example, if you see the traditional Indian business communities, I mean, if we go a generation back, how many of them did they go to a B school or did they attend Wharton? They did not. But what they did was they understood how to create a profit proposition, how to create a people proposition, and how to create a value proposition. And that's what they understood. But what we can do is that among the masses, we can help them shape the ideas better, give them access to mentor pools, give them access to structured funding, and give them better go-to-market strategies and the technology that is emerging in the landscape today.
Not just
that is very important.
Not just our students, but
Yeah.
students around where our schools are located.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
what good business schools
And
don't
what
do.
you said earlier, that the online piece may
Yes.
have a role to play over there.
Yes. Yeah. Great. We will probably save that for the next conversation. And for now, we are done with the time.